Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody.
Prize winner from last night.
A great entry. Everyone can hear me? I sound quite loud, but anyway. Diversity and inclusion for me are principles of good, honest, decent, respectful behavior between one person and another, regardless of where they come from and what they do. But I think the principles or the dynamics across the world are quite different. 100 years ago, women in the UK earned the right to vote. In Somalia today, when there's a formal meeting, men naturally come to the table and sit down, whereas women gravitate to the chairs just aside around the edge of the room. So today I want to talk to you in, I hope, rather a packed half an hour, but I want to talk to you about the dynamics of tribal affiliations and of gender. And to do that, I need to look at two countries. And for those of you who are not so familiar with the geography of East Africa, right in the middle in pale green is Kenya. The pink round the Horn of Africa is Somalia, with Somaliland at the top. And another area that I will be talking about is the northwest of Kenya on the South Sudanese border. We first started working with WFP in 2018. We were asked to do a leadership program, and to be honest, that could have been it, but it wasn't. Lumina was at the heart of that program, and the people who were involved in that program are still our champions today. So I want to talk about our work, first of all, with Kenya. Now, Kenya, hands up, anybody who's visited on safari? Yeah, you see, we all love that side of Kenya. It's a complex country. It's a country made up of 40 different tribes, collectively speaking about 60 different languages. And living and working in Nairobi, it's easy to feel that it's a land of opportunity, of growth, of infrastructure, of hope. But if you head northwest, towards the Ethiopian, towards the South Sudanese or the Somalian border, things start to look very, very different. Some of you who are as old as me may remember a movement in the early 90s that the media called the Lost Boys of Sudan. Remember? And many of these boys were escaping conflict and military rule, and they walked thousands of kilometers south from Sudan across the Kenyan border into what is now called the Kakuma refugee camp. Kakuma is in the region of Turkana, and poverty is rife. The estimates that poverty for both the hosts, as in the people of Turkana, but also the Kakuma the refugees living in the camp, they reckon that about more than 70% are living well below the poverty line of $1.90 a day. Climate change has had a devastating effect in the region. We're talking about, this is our fourth year of drought, but in reality, there's no fourth year, no fifth year, no third year. It's not going back. It's only going in one direction. And the combination of far too little and infrequent rain, locust infestations, over-farming, and desertification has created a really critical environment. The UN had a prediction of 14 million people facing starvation in the region, and the region that includes Somalia, Ethiopia, South Sudan, and northern Kenya. That was their prediction at the beginning of 2022. They have now increased that to 20 million people facing starvation by the end of 2022. Sadly, in the world's media at the moment, it's not getting a lot of attention. So, in the middle of this region in North Kenya is the Kakuma refugee camp. And I'll just give you a little moment to reflect on that. So the Kakuma refugee camp is home to more than 160,000 refugees, and it's where WFP Kakuma field office work alongside many, many other NGOs supporting this community. It is the policy of WFP not to employ people from the local area into their field offices. And the reason that they do this is that these staff would perhaps be vulnerable to pressure from local family, from community, from friends, to perhaps be a little bit more favorable with the food that's supplied or the cash-based transfers. But in the Kakuma field office, it's different. In fact, in the WFP Kakuma field office, 60% of the staff are Turkana, including the deputy officer working there. And in the most part, that has been extremely successful. WFP has made amazing grounds in this area. But it hasn't come without a cost. And the cost has been that that team has always struggled to work together well. They've always struggled to gel a bit together. And there always seems to be that element of kind of them and us. And when I say them and us, them or us, the Turkana people, and them, well, some of the other tribes living in Kenya, other people from East Africa, and of course international staff as well. Then COVID came along. And for months and months at a time, these people were not allowed to leave their local area. Now, I've stayed up here. The maximum I've ever stayed is 3 days. And I can tell you, by the end of those 3 days, I am longing to get back to my home and my bed. It's not glamorous. It's not comfortable. But at COVID, they were all on top of each other. And really, the problems really started to show. They were working in silos, they were blaming each other, they weren't socializing in the evening, and things really started to get quite difficult. And it seemed that the good work, apparently good work that we did in 2020 with the Kakuma team had started to peter out. But it was they that reached out to their country director and they said, things are going really badly. Can we have some of those color things? You know, those red, yellow things again? Some of the more enlightened said, could we have a bit of Lumina? And so she said yes. And we worked with them for 3 full days. They were very intense days. So it was myself and my colleague, Vruguru Gichuku, who's a recently qualified practitioner. AJ knows her, amazing woman. And and she and I worked there, and we opened over those 3 days a floodgate of talking and challenging and arguing, quite a lot of crying, and a lot of laughing as well. Lumina was at the core of that. Everybody had their portraits, and during those 3 days, for one of the first times in a while, I've had enough time to really use the tools properly. So we had lots of cards. We were using those cards to really apply to the real work that they do. They love the building rapport exercises. We did communication. We did all sorts of things. And all the while, the mat sat in the middle of every single conversation. And it was a bit like this wise old friend who kind of sits there, not judging, not really saying anything, but just there. And just reminding all of us that of the qualities that we do have, the things that we can do, the overextension and the impact that we have, and that we do have the solutions. And at the end of those 3 days, we were exhausted, but they were united in one thing, that maybe they didn't have all the answers then, but they knew that the answers lay within that team. They didn't need anybody else to tell them what they needed to do. Fast forward 6 weeks, and I met one of the team in another workshop, and he said, Lucy, we're not perfect, we've got a long way to go. But since we were all together, we've started talking. We're actually socializing in the evenings. We're starting to break down the silos. We're starting to put new initiatives in place. It's not perfect, we still get it wrong, but it is better, which was wonderful to hear. Now, I just wondered as I was preparing for this, how could I bring a little bit of Turkana to Twickenham? And I'm going to play you a little bit of amateur video. Oh, by the way, that's the team, and there we go, the Matt, the old friend kind of in the middle of the workshop. And And at the end of one of these very intensive days, one of the women said, Lucy, can we do something? And I said, yeah, sure, off you go. So in the words of Christine, who is the lady in the black and white polka dot dress, she said, we need to work together. We need to stop our cattle rustling, and we need to come together as one. So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to stand up, and if you feel that the mood takes you, please dance with us.
Refugees, we're welcoming the international community from other countries we come together, live together, and work together. So the ladies here are the people of Turkana, and these are our people. Each one of them represents the Kenyans, the international community, and the refugees. So we want to live together, work together, and live peacefully. No fighting, no cattle rustling, nothing. So during this song, we will request that you all join us. Thank you.
There you go. Thank you very much. There's always so much energy in the workshops, and it's wonderful. And I love the they do that a lot. They do that, and they're very tall, and they're great dancers, so they put us all to shame. So that was my little story about Kakuma and the challenges of the Turkana people. So I want to now head northeast to the other part of my story, to Somalia, a very different country. Somalia is actually Africa's most homogeneous country. We don't have tribes. So we don't have tribes, we have clans, we have big family clans, and those very powerful clans are actually driving a lot of the conflict in the country today. But I'm not here to talk about clans. The working environment in Somalia is extremely complex, and I don't pretend to have any of the answers. However, WFP have asked Lantern to help them to build a more gender equal team in Somalia. Now, why Lantern? Now, I thought it might take just a moment just to give you a little bit of information with regards to working with the United Nations. Is there anybody in the room who currently works with the UN? Fantastic, I can say what I like. Nobody will have another opinion. However, okay, so working with the UN is very challenging, it's very rewarding. We currently have currently have 3 LTAs. Now, an LTA is a long-term agreement, and if you ever do work with the UN, you will very soon understand that the procurement process is extremely tedious, laborious, and it takes a lot of time. An LTA is a little bit like the golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, in that you can bypass all of that well, most of it, and that any team in WFP can come directly to us and ask us to quote for a particular piece of work. In theory, any WFP country across the world could come to Little Lantern and ask us, rather unlikely, but that's in theory, and any UN agency could also piggyback on that LTA. And a case in point is that recently UNICEF, which is the second largest UN agency working in the region, wanted to put together a big team retreat of 230 people. They knew they didn't have the time to go through the tender process, so they reached out to the UN, and WFP said, speak to Lantern, use our LTA. We're waiting to hear. I was hoping I could say we'd won it, but we haven't yet. But Lumina will be part of that. Not with portraits, sorry, but it's too short notice and too hard. But I'm hoping if we get it, then that will be a wonderful way to introduce cards and mats and the whole Lumina experience to UNICEF, and will be the start of other things to come. Okay, so women working in Somalia. It's very, very complex. There are many norms, cultural norms, social norms, religious norms, security, economics, all sorts of things which get in the way of equality for women in the workplace, and it is a huge challenge. In WFP, and this is the team working on the ground in Somalia, less than 1 in 5 of their staff are women. And when you look at supervisory positions, that's anybody who has any responsibility for anybody else, that percentage comes down to 3%. And out of that 3%, only 1 of them is a Somali woman. It's not without trying. It's been a huge challenge. And WFP have diversity and inclusion as one of their key strategic pillars, and globally across the world, they believe that it is right, regardless of the country that they work within, that women need to play an equal part in their teams. But even put aside what is the right thing to do, on a purely practical level, most of the beneficiaries in Somalia are women. We all know that if we give things to women, they tend to get used more effectively. So most of the cash-based transfers, most of the food, most of the amazing work they do with school feeding programs are directly targeted to women. So if you don't have a female workforce, how on earth can you expect to be able to truly understand the problems on the ground and truly work with the beneficiaries so that we can give them what they need? Now, driving this program is a lady called Charlotte Ravo. She is the head of HR for WFP Somalia. She is one of the most inspiring clients I have ever worked with. She is very bright, very determined. She challenges and pushes us to think in different ways. I've had many a sleepless weekend where she's challenged something that I suggested, and I've turned it around. We've worked on it all weekend and come back to her with an alternative the next day. And in nearly all cases, it's been better because of her input. She's done a huge amount, but international staff are only there for 2 to 4 years. She's got about another 2 years left, so we don't have long while she's there. So they've been running this, first of all, this internship program for females for the last 18 months. This is about bringing Somali female non-graduates into the organization, giving them 6 months of on-the-job training. As part of that, they go through a communications program, which we run for them, which is about building confidence in oral and written skills. And it's been successful. And I just wanted to just show you a few of the women on the internship program. And the one to my right in the black hijab is a lady called Siham. When I first met her 18 months ago, she was so timid. She didn't say anything. She didn't ask questions, but she sat and listened and concentrated. I recently went back to Hargeisa and Somaliland on a program I was running around giving and receiving feedback in Somalia, and I met Siham again. And I noticed that at lunchtime, there was a group of them sitting around the table. She included, there was a man called Abdi Rahman, who was the security officer. He was funny, chatting away, but he was a bit of a hypochondriac. So all the other guys were kind of teasing him. There was a bit of banter. It was very friendly. But Siham was chipping in. She was talking, she was coming up with funny little things, and she was very much part of the team. And I just thought, Siham, you have come so far. Because believe me, you don't see that very much. And WFP really need more Sihams. So the internship program is far too little. So they have now launching what they call the Green Talent Program. And this is on a much larger scale. This is funded by head office in Rome. And they are aiming to recruit 100 Somali graduates to come into the organization for a 16-month program. They will be actively biased towards recruiting women, hoping to bring in about 70% of this team will be women. And in that 16-month program, they have 20% of their time will be spent on professional skills development and confidence building and everything else that they need in order to be able to take managerial positions. And their hope is that out of that, they will have 30 people who will be able to take supervisory roles operating in WFP Somalia. We're going to be part of that. We're going to be working with this team for 16 months on the ground. Some of it virtual, but obviously a lot of it on the ground. And so we ask our question, where do we start? What do we do? Well, we know that we have to have a full understanding of the vision, of what is realistic, what is possible. We have to work within these cultural norms, and so often I'm kind of advised, look, you can't say that, you can't do that, and I'm learning all the time as I work with these teams. We have to understand what skills are required, and we work and are guided by the WFP leadership framework. So that's kind of the easy part of it. We have to really truly understand what is the mindset that we need, and the attitude and the confidence that we need to build in these teams. We need to work with men and women, not only the men and women in the internship, in the program, but also the men outside the program. We are fundamentally trying to build a culture of inclusivity for women in WFP Somalia. We know that we need Somali trainers, and I'm very excited to introduce our new team of Somali trainers. These are all diaspora Somali trainers. On my left is Fatima Omer, who's my kind of key contact. We have Khadra, Adim, and Forza, and they will be working and supporting us on the ground. We know that Lumina will be a core theme throughout the whole program. I know it, Charlotte knows it, El Kadir, the country director, knows it. And of course, we need our merry band of Lumina practitioners based in Nairobi. And on our left, I'm very sorry, she would have been there collecting the award yesterday, is Justa Njeri, who's been a practitioner, I think, for about 3 years now. And it's wonderful, but she's just had a baby. And myself and Rigoro Gichuku, who I have mentioned early on. So we will be part of the team. And the challenge is, how do we create a work culture where the Sihams of this world, of the team, feel confident to speak up, to challenge, to question, and they feel that they have an equal right as anybody to sit at that table? And perhaps just as importantly, how do we build a culture where the Abdi Rahmans of this world don't question when a woman speaks, when she challenges an idea? That's normal. Let's just look at the idea. Let's just take it on the merit of the idea. And that he doesn't question why she might want to sit at the main table. That's the challenge. And I thought, what a wasted opportunity to have more than 100 and whatever of you here, and not to ask what you think. So excuse me, I'm very old-fashioned. You see, I have index cards, and I've even got paper and pens on your table. So for 5 minutes, yes, oh gosh, we're behind time. 3 minutes, open up your piece of paper, and you can put any thoughts you like. If you were me, if you were us, what would you do? And if you've got so much that you want to say, just put your email address on and I'll give you a call and contact you. So I'm just going to give you kind of 3 minutes, and then we'll just wrap up with maybe one kind of final question at the end. Thank you. Okay, we're going to keep those pieces of paper on the table. You're not to do anything while the Heineken lady is speaking, but we'll keep them on the table if you suddenly have a great idea. I think we've got one time maybe for one question. If anybody wants to ask anything at this point. Anybody want to
First
to
question,
ask?
who's it going to be? First hand up.
Oh, very good.
There,
Yes,
sold.
Here we go, one.
How have you added into this the sort of cultural dimensions and the sort of chiefs in the masculine environment to get them engaged in that support of women?
Yeah, very, very good question. We're going to be doing some design thinking workshops at the kickstart of the program to really try and remember, we're only working within the WFP staff, so we haven't got any clan leaders as such. But we do need to be out there speaking to everybody in the team and trying to get their thoughts and their opinions. We're also not going from a starting point because we've already been there. We're already having these conversations. There's been a lot of discussions internally trying to gather information from all levels, male and female, in the team. So it's a really important part of the program, of which a lot of work has been done. Thank you very much. And I'm just going to, just because when we do Lumina workshops, we have these very cool little Kenyan bands. So I just asked AJ, there you go. Murray had her yellow one. I don't have one for everybody, I'm afraid. But AJ, I understand green is your top color. So there we go. Karibu Kenya.